Welcome back to Catalyst University. My name is Kevin Tokoff. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for future videos and notifications. And a big thank you to my patrons on Patreon for your contributions to my channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing the pharmacology of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. But before we get into that, let's do a brief review of the pathophysiology of Alzheimer's disease. So here we have a synapse, and this is a synapse between a presynaptic neuron and down here is a postsynaptic neuron. And both neurons really are part of the cerebral cortex. What we observe in Alzheimer's and dementia is that there's degradation of neurons really within the cerebral cortex. And one important thing is that these neurons communicate with each other through the release of acetylcholine mainly. Okay? So if we have degradation of these neurons in the cerebral cortex, what do you suppose is going to happen to the levels of acetylcholine that are released? It's going to decrease, right? And so as Alzheimer's disease or dementia progresses, there's going to be progressively less and less acetylcholine, okay? Now let's look at the basic biochemistry right here. Let's suppose this presynaptic neuron, axon terminal, wants to communicate with the postsynaptic neuron. Well, this presynaptic neuron, through exocytosis, is going to release vesicles containing acetylcholine into the synapse. And that acetylcholine has really two things that it does. The first thing is it binds to the acetylcholine receptor, and that will activate the postsynaptic neuron, and it will therefore have some function, right? But acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter, so we don't want normally acetylcholine to be staying in the synapse indefinitely, right? We have to have a way to get rid of it as well. And so normally, there's going to be an enzyme here called acetylcholinesterase, sometimes just called cholinesterase. They're the same enzyme. And this enzyme degrades acetylcholine into choline and this other molecule called acetate. Now, the acetate can be taken up by neuroglia, so glial cells. One of the glial cells that's been demonstrated to do this in the central nervous system is the oligodendrocyte, which we call normally actually creates myelin sheaths for the axons, although it does have some function here. Also, astrocytes can do this as well, but it takes up acetate, and there's an enzyme here called acetyl-CoA synthetase, which converts it to acetyl-CoA, our central coenzyme. And then while in here, it can enter the Krebs cycle. It can do a number of things useful for that neuroglia. In contrast, choline is simply reuptaken into the neuron that released it. So this protein right here is really just a transport protein that facilitates choline reuptake. And once in this cell, choline can then be moved around, and then it can be remade into acetylcholine by an enzyme called choline acetyltransferase, which I don't have shown here. And then that acetylcholine will be repackaged into vesicles, moved down here to the terminal, and the cycle repeats. Okay? Now, in Alzheimer's disease, what we see is degradation of these neurons, and so there's less acetylcholine. So one of our goals should be to prevent that loss of acetylcholine or even increase it. And what would be the best way to do that here based on this metabolic pathway? Well, it would be to inhibit the enzyme acetylcholinesterase. Because if we inhibit this enzyme, then it's not able to degrade acetylcholine, and therefore acetylcholine will act in the synapse for a longer period of time. So we inhibit its degradation through inhibiting this enzyme. And there are three main drugs that are indicated for this. The first is donezepil, and then there's rivastigmine and galantamine. And these collectively are acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. So acetylcholine is really essential for forming memories and maintaining those memories. So if there's less acetylcholine release in patients with Alzheimer's disease, then inhibiting this enzyme and preserving acetylcholine for as long as possible can help to retain those memories. Okay. Acetylcholinesterase inhibitors usually are going to help with mild and moderate severity Alzheimer's disease, but when it gets more severe, they're not going to be near as effective. Okay. Also, these drugs are useful for slowing the progression of the symptoms, but remember, Alzheimer's disease has no cure, and these drugs are definitely no cure. It's really just to slow down the loss of these neurons, but it does not reverse the loss of those neurons, if that makes sense. Also note here that the second drug here, rivastigmine, can also be applied through a skin patch which decreases the side effects of the drug. So one of the things when we're dealing with this is we have to balance how effective the drug is, meaning how high of a dose we can give, relative to the side effects, right? If the side effects are too great, then we can't use as high of a dose of the drug. But by using rivastigmine through a skin patch, it actually reduces those side effects, and so you can actually use a lot higher of a dose with that particular drug. The second thing here to watch out for is really the NMDA receptor. So the NMDA receptor is a glutamate receptor, and when glutamate binds to this receptor, it causes calcium influx into a cell, okay? Now, the NMDA receptor in normal physiology is implicated with long-term potentiation, which is extremely important in the synaptogenesis, neurogenesis, all that important stuff for motor learning and just learning in general. And it's also important in memory formation and maintenance because through this NMDA receptor, we get more glutamate receptors on the cell, and therefore we get more or stronger connections between neurons. However, in disease processes, particularly with the plaques that form in Alzheimer's, it can cause the calcium influx into these cells to be excessive. When there is too much calcium influx into cells, they enter what's called excitotoxicity. So excess calcium can actually kill these cells. Well, Alzheimer's is already death of cells. We'd like to not have more death of cells, right? So when there's excitotoxicity, we can also use an NMDA receptor antagonist. And the one of choice is memantine. So memantine is an NMDA receptor antagonist, so it blocks glutamate from binding to this, and therefore prevents calcium influx into the cell. Okay? And due to the long-term potentiation here in memory formation and maintenance, that might seem counterintuitive, but if we remember that when that calcium is in excess, which it probably is with the plaques that form that cause Alzheimer's, that calcium excess can result in death of these cells. And so actually by inhibiting this receptor, believe it or not, we can actually circumvent this and prevent more loss of these neurons within the cerebral cortex. Memantine is normally only used though when the dementia becomes moderate or severe. It's not used as a first line of defense. Okay? The first line of defense is going to be these acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. So hopefully this video gave you a good overview of the pharmacology of Alzheimer's disease. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and check out my Instagram for cool science and not science stuff.